Chair of the Transportation Planning Board, and I call the TPB's May 15th meeting to order. We have several members who are participating in person and some virtually as well. Those participating virtually, in the event of a disruption to your audio or video connection, please email or text the staff, and we will find your contact information to try to troubleshoot with you. This meeting is also being live streamed on TPB's YouTube channel. I want to briefly review the process I will follow for facilitating today's hybrid meeting. We will first call for a roll call of the board members participating in the meeting and confirm that we have quorum. After that, we'll hear from comments from the public, and staff will summarize the comments that we have received electronically. Then, during agenda items, we will have presenters complete their briefing, and I will turn to members for questions or comments. I'll call on members by jurisdiction. For action items after the presentation, I'll make a motion to act and invite a second from one of you. Please state your name and jurisdiction when you second the motion. With the motion made and properly second, I will call on members by jurisdiction and then ask for questions or comments before taking the vote. Before we vote, I will only ask for the nays or abstentions. For the rest, I will take your quiet as a yes. For those participating virtually, please use the raised hand icon if you want to be recognized. So first, we are going to do the roll. So Lynn, when you're ready.
Great, thanks. Just so all of you know, online, we have about 17-ish people in the room, so it's great to see everybody. I'm going to start by just stating your jurisdiction or agency, and if you could state your name, we will capture you. Thanks. District of Columbia, District Council Charles Allen.
Okay, bye.
Mr. Allen and Mr. Fruman will be coming.
Okay. District Council, Ms. Christina Henderson.
Here.
District Council, Matt Fruman.
Catherine Miles for Councilmember Fruman.
Thank you. District Department of Transportation.
Amanda Stout, present.
District Office of Planning.
Sakina Khan, present.
Thank you. Moving on to Maryland, City of Bowie. Charles County.
Ruben Collins, present.
College Park.
Stuart Adams, present.
Frederick County.
Mark Mishler, present.
City of Frederick.
Kelly Russell, present.
Thanks. City of Gaithersburg.
Neil Harris, present.
Thanks. City of Greenbelt.
Kristen Weaver, present.
Thank you. City of Laurel. Montgomery County.
Haley Packett. Councilmember Marilyn Balcom.
Great, thank you. Prince George's County.
Eric Olson here. Oluseyi Olubenle, present.
Thank you. City of Rockville.
Monique Ashton, present.
Thank you. Tacoma Park.
Shayna Vulture, present.
Maryland Department of Transportation.
Drew Morrison, present.
Maryland House of Delegates. Thanks. Maryland Senate.
Nancy King, present.
Thank you. Moving on to the state of Virginia, City of Alexandria. Arlington County.
Dan Mallett, present.
Thanks, Dan. City of Fairfax.
Tom Ross, present.
Fairfax County.
James Walkinshaw. Walter Alcorn.
Great, thanks. Falls Church.
Dave Snyder.
Thanks. Loudoun County.
Matt Letourneau.
Supervisor Mike Turner.
Thank you. City of Manassas.
Pam Sabaski here.
City of Manassas Park.
Jeanette Rushel here.
Thank you. Prince William County.
Charity Chandra Jefferson here.
Megan Landis, present.
Got Ms. Jefferson and Ms. Landis. Thank you. Virginia Department of Transportation.
Bill Cutler here. Also, Angel Deem, our Chief of Policy, is on WebEx.
Great, thanks. Virginia House of Delegates.
Delegate David Reed, present.
Thank you. Virginia Senate.
Jennifer Boysko, present.
Thank you. Moving on to our other agencies, WMATA. Our ex officio members, Federal Highway Administration, Federal Transit Administration.
Dan Koenig, Federal Transit.
Thanks, Dan. National Capital Planning Commission.
Michael Weil, present.
Thanks, Michael. Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority and National Park Service.
Laurel Hammock here.
Great, thank you. That concludes roll call. We have a quorum.
Thank you so much, Lynn. Now we will go to public comments. Lynn, if you would please recognize the members of the public who are here in person to come up to the podium and provide their comments. To ensure we have sufficient time for discussions and actions, I request that commenters please limit your remarks to 1 minute and we will time you. You'll hear a beep and that will be your cue to stop. So Lynn, whenever the first person is ready to go.
Great, thanks. So I have a list of 10 confirmed people. We had one call in sick. And so I'm going to run through the names on the list and then I'll do one at a time slowly. That way you all know who's next. And we do have a timer that we'll put on the screen so everyone can see. So the names are Angela Miller, Michael Sakata, Bill Pugh, Janet Gallant, Josh Faverka, Barbara Sofel, Theophilus Stamitis, Gary Hodge, Jason Stanford, and Richard Parsons. So starting with Angela Miller. I don't actually see her. Okay, moving on to Michael Sakata. Okay. Next, Bill Pugh. I saw him.
Good afternoon, TPB members. My name is Bill Pugh. I'm with the Coalition for Smarter Growth. You've heard the last 2 months that we do not think that the Visualize 2050 process complies with the board resolution from 3 years ago to consider an alternative scenarios to do zero-based budgeting and to see how this meets the region's climate goals. We know that the intention 3 years ago was to craft an alternative scenario that could help achieve the region's goals for equity and climate and safety. This process didn't do that. And the zero-based budgeting, unfortunately, it exempted 4 out of 5 projects. You have projects that are not built until 2040 and 2050 that are considered exempt. But overall, I think at this point, we ask you to look at 2 projects and to remove them. These are the 495 South Side project and also the lower 270 express lanes. These are not consistent with the region's goals. And at this point, we think they should not be ready to go into the plan. They could be considered as studies, but we think they should be removed at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Janet Gallant.
Hello, I'm one of the coordinators of don'twiden270.org. The Maryland public and our officials on the TPB have not been fully informed by MDOT about certain projects. About the South Side toll lanes, MDOT has not explained why, on the one hand, MDOT is withdrawing its own study of I-495 toll lanes from east of I-270 to the Wilson Bridge, while on the other hand, supporting the Virginia study to build toll lanes within that same portion of the Maryland Beltway. About the scope of MDOT's I-495 I-270 project, the TPB input table appears to indicate that MDOT will now build not from the George Washington Parkway north, but from the Virginia border north. That's not consistent with what MDOT has been telling the public for years, or what's in the ROD, or what appears to be the project scope in MDOT's current federal grant application. And finally, MDOT has still not given the Maryland public or the TPB a compelling functional reason for the lower I-270 project. Congestion on lower I-270 has been mitigated by MDOT's own innovative efforts. Adding toll lanes to an already well-functioning highway will cause major harm at great cost. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Josh Faverka.
Good afternoon, Chair Henderson, members of the Transportation Planning Board. I'm Josh Faverka, and I'm representing the Northern Virginia Association of Realtors. Here to offer my strong support for the full package of transportation projects submitted by Virginia, Maryland, and DC for Visualize 2050. We represent 13,000 members across the entire region, not just in Northern Virginia. They do 15,000 transactions representing over $16 billion in sales each year. And every time they talk to the folks who who they're selling to, the businesses who are moving here. Congestion and transportation is the primary concern that those folks have. So we need everything in our toolkit when we're talking about transportation. We need roads, we need transit. We need everything from Virginia to Maryland. We need to go across all of the jurisdictions. With growth topping 1 million new residents over the next 25 years, people are going to live everywhere. So they need to be able to move across all of these jurisdictions. We can't afford to eliminate vital transportation projects from this plan that will reduce congestion and help people's lives.
Thank you. Next up, we have Barbara Sofel.
Hello, I'm with Citizens Against Beltway Expansion. Virginia has a bottleneck where toll lanes end in Springfield. They're attempting to solve the bottleneck by moving it to Oxon Hill. The south side lanes and ramps would also block Metro Rail on the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. An extension of the Blue Line would provide service to Roslyn, Georgetown, downtown DC, Navy Yard, Buzzard Point, St. Elizabeth's, Forest Heights, Oxon Hill, National Harbor, and Alexandria. VDOT's claims that the south side lanes would not preclude Metro Rail are not credible. Virginia's P3 contracts are 75-year agreements. A shorter contract would be very expensive, and Virginia could easily avoid the expense by simply using its veto power to block the Blue Line extension. We urge you to remove the south side lanes. We also urge you to remove the I-270 toll lanes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Theophilus Stamatis.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the distinguished Transportation Planning Board. My name is Theo Stamatis, Government Relations Manager for the Loudoun Chamber of Commerce. I thank you for the opportunity to address you this afternoon on behalf of nearly 1,100 employers and entrepreneurs that comprise the Loudoun Chamber's membership. I am here today to show the Loudoun Chamber's steadfast support for the Visualized 2050 project list before you today. These projects represent a staunch commitment to expanding the capacity of our multimodal transportation network that supports the growing housing and economic development needs of our community. Every project within the package before you will work to improve the transportation network across the region and will fundamentally support our prosperity, quality of life, and the capacity to create jobs to accommodate population growth that our communities have experienced. Madam Chair, thank you so much for allowing us to have a voice here, and thank you for your service.
Next up, Gary Hodge.
Gary Hodge, Regional Policy Advisors. For more than 35 years, Maryland leaders have been working together on the goal of bringing high capacity, fixed route, rapid transit down the US 301 Maryland 5 corridor from Branch Avenue to Waldorf and White Plains in Charles County. The elected officials of Charles and Prince George's County have asserted this priority for decades in their priority letters to the state. 5 major studies have been completed by the state in the last 25 years, confirming feasibility, high ridership, economic impact, and the urgent need. The SMART project of a commuter shed of 500,000 people, enhancing mobility, relieving the worst gridlocked congestion in the region. Landmark state legislation has been enacted by the Maryland General Assembly in 2021, mandating prompt action by MDOT to complete the design, engineering, and NEPA process and secure a record of decision for the project. Congress has approved 2 $5 million earmarks. $20 million is in the current CTP of the state.
Sir, time is up. Thank you.
Final paragraph. After decades of advocacy, planning, studies, and major new state and federal policy and funding commitments, it's time for the National Capital Region, TPB, to acknowledge the Southern Maryland Rapid Transit Project as a state and regional transit priority that will be completed within the 26-year scope of Visualized 2050 and included in your update of the Long Range Transportation Plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Jason Spurt.
Thank you for the opportunity to comment today. Jason Stan, Northern Virginia Transportation Alliance. I'm here today on behalf of the Northern Virginia Transportation Coalition, a partnership of 20 regional business and civic organizations, including the Arlington, Alexandria, Loudoun, Prince William, and Northern Virginia chambers, to share our strong support for the project submitted by our region's transportation experts for the air quality conformity analysis. We strongly urge you to support the resolutions as introduced. I also had the opportunity recently to participate in the TPB Community Leadership Institute program. One of the questions that came up, why are roadway projects so important? I brought today a direct illustration from the 2018 and 2022 Visualized 2045 plans. First, it's the plan approved in 2018. It includes express lanes around the Beltway. While there are still some parts of the region that see a reduction in the red part and access to jobs within a 45-minute commute, that portion is much smaller than what we see in 2022. This plan is nearly identical, but the one major change is construction around the Beltway was removed. And then you know that you're going to see even worse because we looked at a no-build scenario of what happens if we don't move forward with transportation improvements. So with that, I would just like to say that thank you for the opportunity to comment today. Please support the projects as submitted. Thank you.
Thank you. Last up, Richard Parsons.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the TPB. Richard Parsons, representing the Suburban Maryland Transportation Alliance. We're here to support the full list of projects supported by the agencies for inclusion in the air quality conformity analysis, including the American Legion Bridge 270 project and the 495 Southside Beltway study. We strongly urge you not to remove or change any of these items on the list, as that would not be in keeping with TPB's mission to advance regional mobility, expand transit and carpooling options, and increase access to jobs throughout the region, as Jason just mentioned. We need a plan that relieves congestion, let's be honest. We need a plan that improves access to jobs, even for areas of this region outside the urban core. We need, given our fiscal restraints, also a plan that includes projects that can create their own new revenue streams. And this is important because express lane projects do tend to pay for themselves over time, and certainly by the 2050 planning horizon for this plan that we're updating now. A regional plan that expands only transit does none of these things. It is impossible for us to afford. Finally, the last comment I'll make has to do with the 270 program. We've taken 30 years to shepherd this project through various stops and starts in the environmental review process for the American Legion Bridge and I-270, one of the region's worst choke points. And we now have an approved record of decision. Any changes that this body makes at this point in the process to the portion of this project that's won federal approval already and is ready to go to construction runs the real risk of engendering new lawsuits that could derail the project. And we don't have the hundreds of millions of dollars and decades more delay that might result in. So please, we're asking you to support the project list as submitted, and we thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Could you press the green button, the button to turn it off? Perfect. Thank you. All right. That concludes the public folks from the public that signed up to speak. So I'm going to take a couple minutes and run through the emails and the written materials that we got. Between noon, Tuesday, April 16th, and noon, yesterday, Tuesday, May 14th, the TPB received 6 letters, including 1 resubmitted letter, and 125 comments submitted via email. A summary as well as each comment can be found on our meeting page. So I'm going to give everybody like two sentences and then we'll move on. So Garrett Gee from the Southern Environmental Law Center submitted supplemental written comments urging the TPB to take all steps necessary to set the region on a path to achieve the climate goals adopted by COG. They assert the current plan includes highway widening projects that would cause significant increases in emissions and divert scarce resources from proven measures to reduce the harmful environmental, safety, and equity impacts of the transportation system. They offered 4 recommendations to revise the conformity analysis and also commented on specific recommendations on projects. George Aburn, again, focused on 2 issues on what he calls the Envision 2050 air quality conformity analysis that he says are not well addressed. First, the plan's failure to address high-risk air pollution hotspots in EJ communities of color created by transportation plans and programs, and that the analysis ignores climate change. He also urges the TPB to review public comments that he's planning to submit for the MWAC meeting and ACPAC later this month. On behalf of the Heavy Construction Contractors Association, Ashley Hudson resubmitted comments from the Northern Virginia Transportation Coalition. They share their strong support of the transportation project submitted by Virginia for the Visualized 2050 Air Quality Conformity Analysis. They state that projects show a strong commitment to expanding capacity of a multimodal transportation network, including key regional upgrades such as the new Long Bridge. They urge leaders in DC and Maryland to follow Virginia's example by investing in infrastructure that expands capacity of the transportation network, such as Maryland's planned upgrades to the American Legion Bridge and I-270. Michael Sakata submitted comments on behalf of the Maryland Transportation Builders and Materials Association. This association expresses their concern about comments made during the April 15th TPB meeting, seeking to remove highway and bridge improvements from the agency recommended list of projects. They urge the TPB to reject such requests, stating that the highway network is aging and severely congested, with key bottlenecks such as the American Legion Bridge. The projects are needed to provide congestion relief and improve access to economic development locations. They support transit projects and acknowledge that transit alone will not address all transportation needs, including movement of goods and services. They advocate a holistic, multimodal approach that meets all transportation needs in a fiscally responsible manner. On behalf of the Maryland Transportation Alliance, as you heard already, Richard Parsons wrote in support of the entire recommended list of transit road and other improvements. Raymond Mondor writes that the idea of building toll lanes on I-495 in Montgomery and Prince George's County is bad, premised on the intention to continually increase the population density of the surrounding locations. People move to the suburbs because they want to live in suburbia, but these actions will lead to sprawl. Gary Hodge also provided written comments. You've heard from him. John Musso wrote on behalf of the Arlington Chamber of Commerce, expressing their support for all the submitted projects included on the project list. The submitted projects encompass a wide range of important transportation improvements across all modes. They state that a multifaceted approach to transportation improvements is critical for the long-term economic success of our metropolitan region. Mr. John Boylan commented on behalf of the Committee for Dulles. He states that key transportation initiatives such as the American Legion Bridge 270 and Southside Express Lanes projects are essential to sustain the economic advantage an international airport brings to our region. Supporting these essential projects leverage Dulles International Airport and benefits the entire DC metro area. Lastly, there was another email campaign, and the TPB received 121 emails in the last month. There's a lot of overlap, but of the 117 more like original emails, there were a few that were repeated. They specifically referenced removing several highway projects and arterial expansion projects in favor of prioritizing investments that support walkable, transit-friendly, and inclusive communities. These emails conclude with a statement that the Visualized 2050 plan will be the last that can make a difference in helping the region meet its 2030 climate change goals, appreciating the changes that some jurisdictions have made. As I mentioned, all of the comments are found on our meeting page. That concludes my report. Thank you, Chair Henderson.
Thank you, Lynn. And once again, for folks who are interested in reviewing the full comments, please check out item 1, the agenda packet for those full reviews. Okay, so we're now going to move to the second item on the agenda, which is the approval of the April 17th minutes. We've been provided with a summary of this. I move that we adopt the minutes of the April 17th, 2024 meeting as provided. May I have a second?
Second, Walkinshaw, Fairfax County.
Thank you, James. Are there any corrections to the meeting minutes from DC? Any from Maryland? Any from Virginia? Any from the other agencies? Okay, hearing none, let's move to the vote. Are there any nays or abstentions from the District of Columbia? Mayor? Virginia?
Boysko abstains.
Okay. Lynn, did you catch that?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Other agencies? Great. The minutes are adopted. Now to the technical committee report. We all have a written summary of the technical committee report. That's item 3 in your agenda packet. The summary of their May 3rd, 2024 meeting. Amy Gabarini, who is the chair of the committee. She's here. If you could provide a summary of the report, Amy, that would be great.
So this is Lynn Erickson. She was a little sick today. So briefly, you all have your report. The tech committee went over items 7, our regional roadway safety program project approvals, and TPB item 8, the visualized 2050 scope of work and air quality conformity analysis items. Items that you were presented for information and consideration. We started to talk about our implementation considerations for on-road transportation greenhouse gas reduction strategies updates. So that's actually very exciting moving forward on work that we've started for the last couple of months. We also had another exciting presentation. You're going to see both of these this summer, the TPB resources and applications page. It's like a one-stop shop for all the cool stuff and all the tools we have. So stay tuned for that. And lastly, we went through our strategic highway network overview. So it's a U.S. military transportation system presentation. And we concluded with that item. And I'm happy to take questions. Thanks.
Thanks, Lynn, for stepping in. Are there any questions for Lynn from DC? Any from Maryland? Any from Virginia? From the other agencies? All right. Okay, we're going to move on to item 4, which is the Community Advisory Committee report and the Access for All Advisory Committee report. We have 2, like I said, we have 2 reports under this item. I'm going to start with the Community Advisory Committee. We have a written summary of their May 9th meeting. I'll turn to Ra Amin, who's the chair of the CAC.
Thank you.
Ra, is there aspects of the CAC activities you'd like to highlight for us?
Yes, and I can be very brief. Thank you. Good afternoon, all. Chair Henderson, Vice Chair Walkinshaw, TPB members. Briefly, this CAC met last Thursday. Some highlights of our meeting included a discussion about DMV moves, the DMV Moves Initiative, and public outreach for the Visualized 2050 Air Quality Conformity Analysis. The CAC is pleased and excited to participate in the DMV Moves initiative as part of the CPAG. We resolved that I will serve as the representative from the CAC with our vice chairs, Ashley Hudson, Virginia, Richard Wallace, Maryland, also assisting as alternates. Our members had a number of questions, including concerns about how the greater community may get involved and how consensus will be reached with such a diverse set of interests. We are committed to participate actively in this effort. We also discussed the public outreach effort for Visualize 2050. CAC members are interested in learning more about how we might evaluate and improve this public comment process in the future. I invite the TPB members to read the CAC report for more details about our discussions. In light of your heavy agenda today, this concludes my report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Ra. Does anyone have any questions for Ra? From District of Columbia? Any from Maryland? Virginia? Other agencies? All right. Thank you, Mr. Amin. Our Vice Chair, James Walkinshaw, facilitated the second meeting of the Access for All Advisory Committee earlier this month. We all have a written summary of that meeting. Mr. Walkinshaw, is there anything you'd like to highlight for us?
I think the written summary does a good job of describing the meeting. It was the first meeting of the Access for All Committee that had an in-person component since COVID. So it was great to see some folks in person, but encourage board members to review the meeting summary if you haven't already. Thank you.
Thanks, James. Does anyone have any questions for James? From DC? Maryland, Virginia, other agencies? Okay, all right, we're going to move on to the steering committee actions and report of the director. We all have a copy of Conti's report. Conti, is there anything you'd like to highlight for us?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. Since you have a copy of my written report, in the interest of time, I will not review it, but I'll be happy to answer any questions. There's one announcement, though, I would like to make, and that pertains to agenda item number 8. There were some additional documents that were posted to the meeting webpage. Hard copies of those letters have been distributed to the members who are here. Those who are participating virtually, those letters are on the meeting materials page. These documents were a letter from Fairfax County, a letter from the city of Rockville, letter from Maryland Department of Transportation, and also finally a letter from Prince George's County. All of these pertain to projects that are under consideration today for approval in inclusion of air quality conformity analysis as part of agenda item number 8. That was the announcement, and I'm happy to take any questions, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you, Conti. Does anyone have any questions from District of Columbia? Maryland? Virginia?
I think we have a Maryland question in the room.
Sorry. Thank you, James. Maryland?
Thank you. I want to thank Conti for sending all the emails and updates, and thank you to everyone who submitted. I did want to cross-check, so I did ask for a printed copy, and it doesn't have the updated. So if anyone has a printed copy, I'm not seeing the updated highlight in yellow as I see on my computer screen. So I just wanted to flag that.
You mean the resolution or the letter?
It's some packet that has action item 8. So I just wanted to make sure that we have the latest version.
Oh,
For those who needed it in print.
Gotcha. I think the original resolution. Thank you, Ms. Ashton. We'll look at what was posted there as opposed to what has been distributed here. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Ashton. Is there another question from Maryland? Do we have a Virginia question?
Don't see any in the room.
Okay. Any other agencies? All right. We'll go on to the chairman's remarks. I'm pleased to announce that a few weeks ago, we launched one of our flagship public outreach activities, the TPB Community Leadership Institute. Over the course of 3 evening sessions, 20 community leaders from all corners of the region came together to learn about transportation planning and decision-making. The program is designed to be interactive and fun. In a role play, participants enacted the tensions and opportunities that arise in our local planning challenges. Working with maps, they use sticky dots and strips to allocate jobs and housing and add new transit as well as roads, and they had to figure out how to pay for it all. Sounds like a great budgeting exercise. On the last night, they used an emissions calculator to decide which strategies they would implement to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. At the end of it all, we hope that folks had some good ideas about how they can think more regionally and act locally when getting involved in transportation decision-making. So congratulations to the folks who have been participating in that program. We have 2 participants who are here today, Jason Stanford and Angela Miller. Thank you for doing this and coming to see the regional planning process in action. For those in the room, if you don't mind giving them a clap of recognition. Wonderful. I want to take a brief moment to reflect on our last, on action item 8, which is the one that we have been working towards since last year. We have, as a board, have had meetings discussing it. There have been listening sessions for agency staff, work sessions, and many comments and input from public and other stakeholders. Last month, while I was unable to participate, Vice Chair Walkinshaw, I understand, did an excellent job facilitating some robust discussion among board members and transportation agencies. Further responses have been developed, and I believe that new letters are in our agenda packet or have been already distributed to commissioners for those who have to review. But now is the time for us to act. It has been my experience that when a plan is developed on behalf of a huge region by a large number of goal-oriented and well-meaning individuals, this plan will likely not be perfect and everyone will not get all that they want. Yet, for me, I believe it is important that every effort should be made to make things better and leave things better than the way that we found them, positioning us to get closer to achieving our goals and aspirations for the National Capital Area region. We've been working towards this over the last 17 months. And what we have in front of us today has come out of those discussions and from the time and work of literally hundreds of individuals. I know that there are some unresolved issues with the projects, so I'm expecting members will want to share their thoughts or make suggestions. My goal is to get us to act on this today while also staying within the time that we have, because I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Therefore, while I do not like to do this, depending on the number of members who wish to comment today, we're going to need to limit your time. So we'll have a timer today for our meeting. Each individual will have 2 minutes to speak on a particular issue. Please take that time to state your position succinctly to help us move towards taking a vote today. To give us a bit more time, I did speak with the staff, and I will note that agenda item 9 is a notice item, meaning we are not notifying meaning we are notifying members that we will be asked to the region's first ever transportation resiliency and improvement plan. We will do that next month. So if you can review it, and if you have any questions or comments, please email Conti. Now, before we get to our long-term plan, we have one important action item, and that is selecting TPB's new slate of roadway safety projects. Janie Neem on staff will now present those that have been recommended. Janie, when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm really pleased to share with you today the Regional Roadway Safety Program projects that have been recommended for funding by the selection panel for FY 2025. And this is the 5th set of projects awarded under this program. I'll begin by providing a brief overview of the program, followed by brief descriptions of the projects identified for funding, and then finally sharing the next actions in this program cycle after today's meeting. Okay. The Roadway Safety Program was established in 2020 to support TPB member jurisdictions in developing and implementing projects that improve safety outcomes across the region. Since its inception just 4 years ago, the program has funded 28 projects totaling approximately $1.8 million, and these projects have spanned a variety of topics and disciplines beyond planning and engineering of roadways, such as developing education campaigns and toolkits, implementing complete streets, drafting local road safety plans, creating new guidelines and standards, and more. For this latest RRSP cycle, staff solicited applications for member jurisdictions over a 3-month period, and we received 18 applications totaling over $1.5 million in funding requests, which is the largest number of applications that we've received to date. Half of the applications were from Maryland jurisdictions, and the remaining half were from Virginia jurisdictions. And several applications focused on addressing pedestrian and bicyclist safety along arterial roadways. Following the application period, a selection panel consisting of safety officials from MDOT, DDOT, VDOT, and TPB staff reviewed the submissions and convened to identify the projects to recommend for TPB approval, as well as the funding level of each project. Each selection panel member scored each application in 2 ways. First, a program priority score based on how well the project addressed the program priorities. And second, a qualitative score based on the panelists' professional expertise. And these two scores were then combined into a total score. The panelists then convened to discuss their evaluations and come to a consensus as to which projects to recommend for funding. This table shows the projects identified by the selection panel for funding, as well as their funding recommendations. In developing its recommendations, the panel strove to allocate program funds equitably between Maryland and Virginia. We didn't receive any applications this round for DC. In some cases, projects were partially funded, and these decisions were made based on a project scalability. And the total program funding this year was $480,000, thanks to each of our state DOTs who increased their contributions for this program cycle and for which we're extremely appreciative. And now I'll provide additional details about each of the recommended projects. Our first project from the City of Frederick will provide multimodal safety improvements along a main corridor in the city, South Jefferson Street. South Jefferson Street has seen on average one car crash every 45 days for the past 5 years, including a serious fatal crash in recent months. This project will build on a current RRSP project by advancing the recommendations from that effort towards 30% design to improve overall safety. The next project, the Randolph Road Safety Improvement Project, is from Montgomery County. The project will develop preliminary engineering designs for safety improvements along a 1.3-mile segment of Randolph Road in the Glenmont-Wheaton area. The corridor has a history of crashes, including 2 fatal crashes and 5 serious injury crashes in the last 5 years, as identified in the county's high injury network. It also serves multiple equity emphasis areas. The proposed designs will include hawk signals, strategic lane width reduction, improved pedestrian crossings, and additionally address turn management challenges. In the city of Alexandria, in Prince George's County, this next project will conduct a study of methods for collecting, analyzing, and using data related to near misses, which are traffic events that have the potential to lead to injury, fatality, or physical damage but are not yet actualized. Prince George's County hopes that the findings from this study will allow it to proactively explore areas of safety concern beyond its high injury network. And now in the city of Alexandria, the Seminary Road Safety Improvements Project will identify and develop conceptual designs for safety improvements on the segment of Seminary Road between North Beauregard Street and the city line. Today, Seminary Road serves fast-moving vehicular traffic and multiple bus routes and has few safe pedestrian crossings and no bicycle facilities. And between 2015 and 2023, 12 people, including 3 pedestrians, were killed or seriously injured. With this project, the city hopes to develop concept designs for treatments such as new crosswalks, medians, landscaping, signal timing modification, bus stop improvements, and more. Next, the South George Mason Drive and South 4 Mile Run Drive intersection alternatives analysis project in Arlington will assess the feasibility of 2 alternative designs for the intersection, with one alternative being a peanut about, which is a peanut-shaped roundabout. South George Mason Drive and South 4 Mile Run Drive is a complex intersection where 2 major arterial roads, a neighborhood street, and the W&OD trail cross. The location has been identified as a County Vision Zero hotspot because of its high crash rate, and it was highlighted by the community through public outreach for its safety concerns. And the final project is the Wilson Boulevard Safety Improvements Project in the city of Falls Church, which will develop conceptual design plans for multimodal improvements along Wilson Boulevard between Arlington Boulevard and John Marshall Drive, North McKinley Road. The corridor has experienced several crashes resulting in serious injuries and a fatality, and it serves an equity emphasis area. The city intends to coordinate the project with the planned Route 7 BRT service as well as the 7 Corners Ring Road project. Those are the projects the selection panel recommends for the board's approval for FY 2025. And upon approval, TPB staff will coordinate with the relevant jurisdictions to finalize project scopes and begin the consultant selection process, which we anticipate will take place in the June-July timeframe. And this will be followed by project kickoffs in early fall with an anticipated completion date of June 30th, 2025. That concludes my report. I'd also like to thank the safety officials from each of the DOTs for volunteering their time to serve on the selection panel, and also our intern, Kenneth Duryberry, who conducted a lot of the analysis of the applications and the coordination. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Janie. Are there any questions on the recommendations or the program from the District of Columbia? Any from Maryland? Any from Virginia?
Madam Chair, Dave Snyder, City of Falls Church. I just want to say that this is one of the initiatives that arose out of an intensive look at highway safety and what more we can do. And as we know, the statistics still aren't good out there. So I would urge that we approve these recommendations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Any questions or comments from the other agencies? Okay, there's no resolution to adopt, so we'll go straight to a vote. Are there any nays or abstentions from the District of Columbia? Any from Maryland? Any from Virginia? Any from the other agencies? All right, we have just approved those regional roadway safety program projects. Thank you, Janie, and to you and your team, as well as to all of the volunteers who served on the selection committee. All right, now to the last action item, and an important action item at that. We'll first have Christina Finch on staff outline what action we're being asked to take today, what it represents, and what the next steps are. After that, I will briefly recognize the representatives of the Virginia DOT to review their responses to the comments and questions board members raised at the April meeting. After that, we'll have Maryland DOT review their responses to the comments and questions that they received at the April meeting. Following that, just to clarify from a parity standpoint, I don't believe there were any comments that were raised specifically about projects in the District of Columbia, so that is the only reason why DDOT is not presenting. So following the comments from Virginia DOT and Maryland DOT, I will make a motion to adopt the resolution for this action today. And then I will seek a second for that motion. Then we'll have some time for members to share their comments, and then we'll proceed to a vote. But we'll start with Christina to get us started. Christina?
Okay, thank you, and good afternoon, Chair Henderson and members of the board. Today marks an important milestone in the development of the next National Capital Region Transportation Plan, Visualize 2050, and the immediate planned federal obligations in the FY 2026 through 2029 Transportation Improvement Program, because today you will be asked to take a vote to advance a subset of the region's future transportation projects that are significant for the air quality conformity analysis, to ensure that the region's plan for major transportation investments will achieve air quality standards in the future. For about the last year and a half, the TPB member agencies and staff have been working hard to re-examine the proposed investments in the Visualize 2045 plan and submit what each agency believes to be essential transit and highway capacity-related improvements to serve the region's future population and address key issues experienced by people today. The public has been engaged through a unique 10-month comment period last year on the current Visualize 2045 plans projects and a 30-day comment period in March on the proposed investments for the next plan, Visualize 2050. The result of this zero-based budgeting process includes a revised mix of regionally significant transit and highway projects, which apply to the TPB's priority strategies to achieve the TPB's regional goals. This mix of projects includes changes to the proposed expansion of Express Lanes network changes to roadway projects, including repurposing some travel lanes and choosing to not widen roads in some locations. And it includes more active transportation projects as multimodal components of these regionally significant projects. This proposal also continues many active or still worthwhile investments approved in the current Visualize 2045 plan. The Visualize 2050 plan will continue the commitment to maintaining the transportation system in a state of good repair and to managing future growth to support regional activity centers and high-capacity transit station areas. The board today will be asked to take action on item 8A in your agenda packet. Notably, the board will be asked to approve a proposed mix of highway and transit projects to be included in the federally required Regional Air Quality Conformity Analysis and the Regional Transportation System Performance Analysis. This list of projects is in the resolution's attachment 4. Additionally, the board will be asked to approve the tolls and other assumptions for conducting the analysis within the scope of work, which is in the resolution as attachment 3, including the COG-approved Round 10 cooperative forecasts for future population, employment, and households. The models used to conduct the travel demand and emissions analysis, the years of analysis, non-transportation inputs to the models, and roadway and transit operating parameters. In item 8B, you'll see there are now 6 letters included with the memo and posted on the webpage. Included with the memo were 3 letters. 2 letters are from VDOT on the Southside Express lanes. 1 from VDOT Commissioner Britch on April 30th, which is also included in the resolution as attachment 2. The second VDOT letter provides responses to PG County's questions from the April TPB meeting. The third letter is from MDOT, providing information about the 495 East study, the American Legion Bridge Plus 270 program, and the Southern Maryland Rapid Transit Project. The MDOT letter has also been included in the resolution as attachment 1. This morning, we posted on the TPB meeting webpage under item 8B 3 additional letters that we received. Hard copies have also been passed out to in-person members and are available for any board member here who did not receive a copy. The letters are from Fairfax County about the Southside Express Lanes project, from the City of Rockville regarding the Express Lanes project along I-270 within the City of Rockville limits, and from PG County about the Southern Maryland Rapid Transit Project. In the Air Quality Conformity Project Inputs table, we've had a few additional technical corrections since the April TPB meeting, and those are described in the item 8B memo. All the corrections since the table was first published in March are shown in pink. This table is included as attachment 4 to the resolution. The Air Quality Conformity Analysis scope of work has not had any more changes since the copy you reviewed at the April TPB meeting. You can see on the screen here a key table in the scope of work, which includes key elements of the policy and technical approach to the conformity analysis. The scope of work is included in the resolution as attachment 3. So for next steps, as I've mentioned today, the board is asked to take action on resolution 12-2024 so that staff may begin the performance and air quality analysis of Visualize 2050 and the FY 2026 through 2029 Transportation Improvement Program. This analysis is expected to continue through the first part of next year. This summer, TPB staff will work with TPB member agencies on other transportation projects and programs that are important to the region, but not significant for the air quality conformity analysis. In the fall, we will finalize the complete Visualize 2050 financial plan, including these other transportation projects and programs, including operations, maintenance, and state of good repair. In April of 2025, per the board's approved plan development schedule, the TPB will review analysis results and the draft plan and program. These 2 documents will also be available for public review and comment. In June of next year, the TPB will be asked to approve the final Visualize 2050 plan, the FY 2026 through 2029 Transportation Improvement Program, and the results from the air quality conformity analysis. Madam Chair, that concludes my presentation, and staff requests the board's action on Resolution R12-2024 included in item 8A of your packet. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christina. Are there any questions to clarify what we heard from Christina? Does anyone from the District of Columbia have any questions? All right. Does anyone from Maryland have any questions? Okay, I see Delegate Reed.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a question for Christina, just to clarify that the new express lanes along 495 South Side would actually allow for the ability to have express bus service as well, where we currently don't have any that exist, and that would also help to move more people in a more efficient manner, as well as reducing air pollution in the area. Is that my correct understanding?
Yes, sir. The express lanes projects proposed would allow for transit.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate Reed. I don't see any other folks online. Is there anyone in the room who wanted to ask a question of Christina from Maryland?
I don't see any, Madam Chair.
All right. Anyone from Virginia have any questions for Christina?
I don't see any in the room, Madam Chair.
Okay, and I don't see any online. All right. So now we're going to ask for representatives from VDOT to briefly review their responses to the comments and questions they received. These are in the form of 2 letters. They're on pages 6 and 8 of the memo for item 8B that Christina reviewed. Remember, we are not taking up the resolution right now. We'll get to that next. This is just so VDOT can share with everyone their responses, and then we'll have an opportunity for you all to ask them any questions. VDOT, when you're ready.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate it. Bill Cutler, Virginia Department of Transportation. Good to see you all again. I do want to thank folks over the last 6 weeks in particular that we've been having some really good conversations with about our projects. And a reminder, VDOT and Virginia have submitted a portfolio of projects that we believe will improve the quality of life for those in our region. But I do want to take a few moments to just speak a little more about the 495 South Side Express lanes. The letter and the documents in the package already speak well to it, but I'll just take a few moments to note that this project does align with TPB's aspirational goal to expand the express lane network in the capital region. This would be the final 11 miles for Northern Virginia to complete Northern Virginia's express lanes with the proposal of continuing it into Maryland and Prince George's County. These are managed lanes that ensure reliable travel times, and they're managed through tolls. But those tolls go to 0 if you have 2 friends in a car with you, 2 family members in a car with you, HOV3. So we're encouraging that form of transit. And as we just mentioned, express buses are able to function in there as well. This will connect to an existing network of 94 miles of express lanes that already exist today in Northern Virginia, functioning very well. It also incentivizes economic growth as it provides reliable trips and mobility for users. As we know, our region will continue to grow as we want it to grow with the economic benefits that it provides. So connections, in this case, to National Harbor, MGM Casino, and other facilities in Prince George's County, in Fairfax County, in Alexandria. We see some tremendous opportunities there. We know that the person throughput would increase with HOV3 and more with bus transit. Metro has the NH4 line today that crosses the Wilson Bridge that sits in the conventional lanes and is there with the rest of the traffic. When you get a Metro bus or any other local bus service into express lanes, you're now creating reliable transit trips, and you're able to make it more beneficial to users and grow that customer base into the future for when our region is prepared for Metro Rail to cross the Wilson Bridge. Something that, as I said last month, Virginia and VDOT very much support. Our commissioner included that in his language as well. And we want to just reiterate, we very much support that. We are national leaders in P3 contracts. We have the ability to craft a contract specific to each case. And we would be able to do that with our private sector partners that provides the proper benefit to the region for when the region is ready to implement rail across that bridge. Also with our express lanes, we often have concessionaire agreements that provide some percentage of funding that is going to go towards transit use. And so just last week, the Fairfax Connection newspapers reported about NVTC and $30 million that our local members that are participants on NVTC will get to make choices as to how that 30 million is spent, often supporting new bus lines, maybe bus fare, reducing fares, connections to various transit stations, buying electric buses, different things like that. That funding is made available through the concessionaire agreements and is essentially being paid for by SOV commuters who choose to pay the tolls in those express lanes. As I said, we support the Wilson Bridge having this eventually transitioning to Metro Rail, as was written in the commissioner's letter. We also are looking to use this existing asset of the Wilson Bridge that 20 years ago was designed. VDOT was part of it. The region was part of it. To set aside space for transit has been unused for over 20 years, and we're looking to make use of that space now into the near future, make the best of that asset as possible. And we know that doing nothing, our region is poised for more growth. We're a national leader in terms of growth. People want to live in our region and enjoy the jobs and the wonderful things we have in our region. So it's going to continue to grow. And we know that doing nothing will not get us where we want to be. So with that, I just want to close with one other thought is that we obviously want to have some regional consensus in the decisions that happen with this body. We've had some great conversations, as I said, over the last 6 weeks. If we're not able to reach a consensus today, we are open to the possibility of delaying this particular project decision for another month so that we are able to reach that decision with our partners to answer further questions, etc. So thank you for the time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill. All right, so these are questions or comments for VDOT. I'll go by jurisdiction just to keep it orderly. We'll start with Maryland.
We have a couple in the room, Mr. Olson.
Yeah, Eric Olson, Prince George's County Council. Thank you, Mr. Cutler. I do have an amendment that's ready when we're at that point to remove the South Side project. So, and we can have that discussion now, or we could have that during the.
If we could
amendment.
hold on that, because we're just these are for questions straight for VDOT. We'll get to.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. We are not a consensus, I guess I would say. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Maryland?
Yeah, we have one more, Ms. Ashton.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Walkinshaw.
Thank you, and I appreciate you schedule meetings with various members of the TPB to get more information. One thing that I had asked was whether any of the tolls collected in the Maryland portion will be shared with Maryland or its local jurisdictions, and I just wanted to see if you can clarify that question.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the question. So the answer is yes, that's the intent. Now, obviously for VDOT, all of our concessionaire agreements have been solely within the Commonwealth of Virginia. So the benefits of those concessionaire agreements where tolling and transit, tolling money is provided to Virginia, which then we work with our local governments, as I just mentioned, NVTC and maybe other situations. Those decisions are made with the local governments and the state. Because this project crosses into Maryland, our intention would be that Maryland would share in the collection of a percentage of the monies that would be agreed upon by contract with our concessionaire, private sector concessionaire. And so they would be then in agreement to provide a percentage of funding which would go to Maryland, which I presume Prince George's County and other localities that are associated with this project would have the ability to make decisions on how that money would be used. And just an example, we're looking at $20 to $30 million a year in Northern Virginia that we're collecting in this manner. Thank you.
My last question is, are there going to be any caps on those tolls, or they can go as high as the traffic allows?
So the managed tolls is the answer. The short answer is no. There's not a cap on the tolls. We're looking at Econ 101, right? Supply and demand to manage the tolls, to manage the roadway. Excuse me. The goal is to manage the roadway so that it is providing reliable trips. In order to provide that reliable trip, when the demand is greatest, the tolls are going to go up. When the demand is lower, the tolls go down. The asterisk in all of that story is that even when the tolls are at their highest, you can still get on for free. 3 people in a vehicle, there is no toll.
Thank you, Ms. Ashton. Are there any other questions from Maryland? All right. Questions for the District of Columbia. I'm part of DC. I do have one question, Mr. Cutler. Thank you. I met with you and your team. Since Ms. Ashton sort of raised it around the revenue sharing piece, if we're being technical, the District of Columbia does have a slice of the Woodrow Wilson Bridge as well. Do we get a portion of those proceeds?
We are certainly open to that. We are certainly open to that. I'm sure we will get all our lawyers in a room. But if that is absolutely the case, then I'm sure that's what
It's a little slice, but it's a meaningful slice.
Yeah, you kind of need the whole bridge to get across. Yeah.
Exactly. Sorry, I just was trying to lighten it up a little bit. But also for clarity, Mr. Cutler, I thought it was interesting in our conversation. I asked, how will you even know if someone has 3 people in the vehicle in terms of HOV3? If this is a managed toll lane that's using the Easy Pass system, it's not a person who's checking. Are we going by honor system here, or is there a way to check?
There is a person that's checking. With Easy Pass Flex, you're designating yourself as HOV3, or you're saying we're not HOV3, we're paying the tolls. If you're identifying yourself as HOV3, there are observations that are made by our concessionaires. They have an interest, obviously, in collecting their rights to collect. So they observe and they do reach out to violators.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from DC? Okay. Questions from Virginia or comments?
Chair Henderson, this is James Walkinshaw.
Mr. Walkinshaw, go ahead.
First, as someone who has forgotten to switch my transponder off of HOV3, I can assure you that they do find out. That has happened to me before. Two questions for Mr. Cutler, and a number of us, I think, across the region have expressed the concern about future rail across the Woodrow Wilson Bridge, and I think we got to be honest with ourselves that that's a future that is decades away. In the best case scenario, some of us have lived through decades of work on the Silver Line and know how long those projects take, but still a critical issue. And I'm wondering if you can just expand upon the language in the letter discussing the inclusion in the 2000 NEPA study and the upcoming or pending NEPA submission and the legal enforceability of that reversion of right-of-way to rail. How would that work? How would that be enforced? Who would legally enforce that language that's has been submitted and or will be submitted through the NEPA process.
Thank you. So there are two enforceable opportunities for us. One is the NEPA document and the second is the concessionaire agreement. So with the NEPA document, we are telling the federal government is the recipient of this NEPA document. And so we as an organization are confirming to the federal government our intention, and we're making a commitment with that NEPA document. So the federal government then holds us accountable. And it's a significant item that we do not want to run afoul of. The federal government can put any state DOT in a unenviable position. And as we often expect to have federal funds, and we need to have federal funds for so many of our projects across the Commonwealth. So that becomes a top priority for the agency to meet the commitments of our NEPA document. The second commitment is the concessionaire agreement itself. And again, that is, don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but in a scenario in which this proceeds to where we have a concessionaire, it would be written in such a manner, the document would be written specific to this project for the concessionaire. And actually there will be, this would be open for competition. So we would have multiple prospective concessionaires who would be interested in this project, and they would be competing, but they would all know, whoever won knows that the region's intent is to, in a case of 2 express lanes in each direction, the region's intent is to transition to 1 in each direction and have Metro Rail. And so that would be written to the benefit of the region. VDOT would be the authors of this contract, but we would be conferring with Maryland and DC to ensure that we're writing it properly to support the full longer-term intentions of this region.
And second question, I wonder if you could just discuss quickly the transit study. And I know MDOT and Prince George's County and others participated in this transit study. And, we've heard that there's potential for bus ridership, more reliable, more efficient bus ridership. But can you share with us the numbers that the study identified? How many people could be riding buses through this project, especially over and across the Woodrow Wilson Bridge?
I don't have that number handy, but I do want to say express lanes are managed. So those buses, they're full. You're able to get a lot more people across. So it's not so much vehicles, it's people. And we expect there to be a time where we have more people crossing in these lanes than vehicles because of the HOV3 characteristics, because of the buses. In other areas of the express lanes, as well, I also want to, if I could, just take a moment and say the travel time, because this is connected to the bus reliability, is the travel time. We're seeing in some cases 50% reductions in travel time for those that are using express lanes versus using conventional lanes. And so you can see how that can translate to express buses and their reliability.
Okay, thank you, Chair Henderson. We have another one from Virginia here in the room. Mr. Letourneau.
Thank you. Mr. Vice Chairman, two quick questions. So could the concessionaire be held responsible in the agreement to actually do the conversion of pavement to rail, or at least bring back to a sort of, standard where it could be converted to rail? And the second question is, the length of the concession, obviously, on most of these agreements has been long. What have you looked at in terms of a realistically shorter length of time to allow for the opportunity to potentially convert to rail sooner than what the typical concession would be with the other VDOT agreements?
All right. The time asked well, actually, the first question was about the conversion. So the conversion itself would happen as a project by our region delivering the Metro Rail. The concessionaire would be advised that the space is now required or about to be required with an appropriate lead time. But our Metro Rail project would then do the conversion itself, would build it itself.
With an additional expense potentially then?
Well, we don't anticipate there to be an additional expense to the Metro Rail project because it's the deck on the bridge is there to be used. So they're not building that. They're not reconstructing that. They're just using up the space a little bit differently. In terms of timing, that is something that has to be negotiated with the concessionaire. It obviously needs to be something that a concessionaire is willing to do, willing to put the money up front to build a multi-billion-dollar project. And so there would be a negotiations with our P3 office in Richmond on the exact time. But the time would allow for the conversion within it. So it could conceivably go on. I mean, the intention would be for it to go on for many years. It would just convert from a 2 lanes in each direction to a 1 lane in each direction. So that 1 lane can continue on.
Thank you.
Senator Boysko in the room.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vice Chair. Mr. Cutler, I represent the northern portion of the 495 Next project and can say confidently that there are many people who are very unhappy with the congestion that is caused and the quality of life for the residents, as well as the people trying to leave Fairfax County going to the bridge. What kind of assurances do we have if we are to move forward with this project on the other end of the county that we wouldn't see the same kind of multi-hour congestion during the improvement plan? That's where I get very concerned.
So first off, before the 495 Next project started, we already had substantial congestion between Virginia and Maryland across the American Legion Bridge. So that's an existing condition created by investment that was less than what the demand calls for in our region over many decades. The current project underway is added to the congestion because that is what construction typically does. We expect that when the construction comes to a close, the construction period comes to a close, that the conditions will be much better. I know there is some cut through that's happening in the Georgetown Pike area. We believe that will be lessened by that project. It's incumbent upon us to study with the continuation of the 495 Southside Express lanes to do the full evaluation in terms of the terminus of the project, looking at all the different ramp configurations, benefits, refinements, public involvement with all of the local governments and state governments involved. That's all part of the process. But construction-related congestion comes with the package.
Thank you. One follow-up, sir. You mentioned the ramp construction for the South project. Are you obviously taking into consideration future rail in that area? And so we wouldn't have to go back and redo it.
Yes. Yes, thank you. So the intention would be, we use a term not to preclude, but we would also be actively looking to make it better than just not preclude. Where's the best location for whichever ramp, whichever asset, so we can reduce the number that might have to be reconstructed later when we do Metro Rail.
Great. Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay. So we're at 1:20. We're going to ask MDOT to briefly review their responses and comments to the comments and questions that they received. Their letter is on page 11 of the memo. Remember, we're not taking up the resolution, but we'll get there. MDOT?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and we'll seek to be efficient. And if you'd like a share of the tolls, we're happy to give you a share of the maintenance costs as well for the South Side. No. Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to respond to the different issues brought forward here. I'll highlight some things from our letter, pass it over to Administrator Will Pines from the State Highway Administration, and go from there. So first thing I wanted to do is our goal overall is to try to clarify, to provide as much transparency we can in the direction that we're seeking to go. So that is why we removed what we're calling the 495 East set of studies, those that go east of the 270 spur, of items that we are not actively pursuing for study or construction at this time. And that was the intent of the change that we made there, very much in response to what we heard from stakeholders previously. Another critical project is the Southern Maryland Rapid Transit Project. You've heard the interest, and I think when we get to the discussion of the larger resolution, there'll be good opportunity for stakeholders in Maryland to further highlight the importance of the project. And I want to take the opportunity to reinforce MDOT's support for that project. We have serious money in the Consolidated Transportation Program and the TIP to advance that work. We have a new team at MTA launching in to the NEPA study to advance that. And from this administration's perspective, a NEPA study is not another study. We use the NEPA process to align on the strategy to implement projects. But when it comes to TPB conformity, a project to be included in the construction side needs to be financially constrained. It needs to demonstrate that construction or full funding is reasonably expected to be available. And so you have our commitment that through the work that we are doing collectively with Prince George's in Charles County, that as we get to a designated mode, alignment, and estimated cost for construction, MDOT will work with the counties to include SMRT as a construction project, either in a future long-range plan update or as an off-cycle plan amendment. We think this project is critical for Southern Maryland, and we want to keep it moving forward through the process and work toward implementation. The third project that we wanted to respond a little bit on is American Legion Bridge 270. And so I'll pass over to Administrator Pines and I'll close up from there.
All right, well, thank you, Drew, and good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Will Pines. I'm Administrator for State Highway Administration, and I want to start by thanking Montgomery County and the City of Rockville and other stakeholders that we've engaged leading up to today for the collaborative discussions that we were able to have. The plan before you, the Visualized 2050 plan, does move forward with the NEPA record of decision from the ALB 270 study. And we are suggesting to advance that record of decision to avoid delays in advancing the important multimodal and transit elements of the program. We've worked with Montgomery County to reaffirm advancement of those transit commitments in the program and have formalized this through the proposed resolution before you. And we've worked with the City of Rockville to formally de-emphasize Segment D from the program and really formalize that by showing the shift out per the request to 2045, recognizing that we have no funds committed to work in this area and no near-term plans to do so. Additionally, we've committed to complete engagement process with stakeholders prior to any advancements in the record of decision that would occur prior to any advancements in Segment D. And so with that, I want to thank you again, and I will turn it back over to Drew.
Thank you so much, Administrator Pines. And so just to provide a little bit of mapping when we get to the motion portion of our afternoon, as Administrator Pines said, we have kept in force and effect the language from 2021 that we agreed with Montgomery County on the American Legion Bridge 270 project related to transit commitments. And that's in the base resolution. And we are committed to working with Montgomery County over the next year to further solidify what that framework looks like as we think about the new approach to implementing the project. And we also will be introducing language related to our commitments to Rockville, Gaithersburg, and Montgomery County as we think about the 270 portion that's being de-emphasized in the plan. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Again, these are for questions related just to MDOT. I'll start with Virginia.
I don't see any Virginia questions. We have one Maryland question in the room, I see.
All
Mr.
right.
Collins.
Let's go to Maryland then. Maryland?
Mr. Collins?
Good afternoon, everyone. This is more in line with comments, reiterating the inclusion of SMRT in the constrained long-range plan or Visualize 2050. This is, and I want to emphasize that SMRT is a regional project. It has received 2 federal earmarks of $5 million each, showing that our congressional leaders support this very pivotal high-capacity transit project, which has a ridership area of more than 450,000 people across 2 counties, that's Prince George's County and Charles County. It's our position that it must be added to the project in order to be compliant with federal funding rules for the next phases of engineering and construction. Based on last year's state CTP budget for SMRT, $20 million and a recent addition of $5 million earmarks coming from the feds and the required state match, Charles and Prince George's County would like to see MDOT take all steps necessary to complete the NEPA process and achieve a record of decision. And based on the statements made today, it appears that all of that is moving forward. We are seeking inclusion of SMRT in the constrained long-range plan because it's critical to being eligible for federal New Starts funding upon completion of the NEPA process and record of decision. And so we are again re-emphasizing how important this very critical regional project is in Southern Maryland as it connects to our entire region. Thank you.
Mr. Olson?
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank Mr. Morrison and Administrator Pines for their collaboration on the east side and removing the language about the tolls, toll lanes and the study. That's very important to us in Prince George's County. I also want to echo Mr. Collins's comments about SMRT. Prince George's County and Charles County are both very much supportive of that and appreciate your work on that to include that language, and let's get that in the CLRP as soon as we can moving forward. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you all. Are there? I'm sorry.
Miss Ashton in the room as well.
Okay, there we go. Miss Ashton.
Thank you. I want to thank the Maryland administration, MDOT, Administrator Pines, and Mr. Morrison as well. I appreciate the various meetings we have had. I also just want to acknowledge the movement of Segment D from 2040 to 2045, as well as some of the other commitments and requirements noted. There is a comment in there that Segment D could not be removed and a motion to make it removed could not happen. So I wanted to add a follow-on question to that is the possibility of moving from the word construct to study. And if you could please explain that to us, because that was something that the city of Rockville was interested in.
Sure, I certainly understand that, and Will, feel free to chime in with me. But basically, the NEPA record of decision treats what we call here segments A, B, C, and D, the full section from the Parkway up to I-370, the ICC, as a singular selected alternative. And as such, while we can phase within the box of that selected alternative, we can't cut up that selected alternative here, and we can't move the timeline back for the project any further than 2045 to be consistent with the horizon year of the NEPA, nor can we move from construct to study.
Thank you. And inclusive of all of our best efforts to have this tight language in here, it is possible that a future administration, not this one, could put toll lanes in the city of Rockville. Is that correct?
It is true that a future administration would have a record of decision that includes toll lanes in this segment, yes.
Okay, I don't see anyone else in the room. You're on mute, Chair Henderson.
Thank you. All right, so I think we just, Virginia, just for clarity, just any, are there any questions or comments from the other agencies for NDOT? All right, okay, so I will now move that we adopt resolution R12-2024, approving the scope of work for the air quality conformity analysis, including the list of transit and highway projects proposed by our member agencies, authorizing staff to commence with the analysis for the visualized 2025 and 2050 and the FY 26 to 29 tip. Remember, this is not to adopt the visualized 2050 or the FY 26 to 29 tip. This is just to begin conducting the analysis. Is there a second for the motion?
Second, Delegate David Reed from Virginia.
Okay. Thank you, Delegate Reed. Now that motion has been properly made and seconded, before we go to comments, I want to ask Conti to provide an overview of the parliamentary procedures we'll use for this action. Conti?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. Many of you are elected officials, so you know the process. The only thing I'll be reviewing is the specific allowances within the TPB bylaws. So a motion has been properly made and seconded. So the motion is currently on the table. So we will now enter discussion phase. During discussions, there can be questions, answers. There could even be a proposed amendment to the motion made, which would be to the resolution R12-2024. So when such a proposed amendment to the resolution is made, the maker of the original motion and the person seconding it will have the prerogative to determine whether they see that as a friendly amendment or not. If it is determined not to be a friendly amendment, then there would be a vote taken on the proposed amendment. And depending on what the outcome of that vote is, either that change to the resolution is either adopted or it is rejected. And then we come back to the original motion, which is resolution R12-2024. That is the typical process many of you are aware of. The TPB addition is at any point in time, even after a simple vote has been taken, any member of the board can request for what in the bylaws is called proportional vote, which is essentially a weighted voting system. Under the simple vote, everybody present and voting, their votes are counted as one vote. And we go by simple majority for determining whether the motion passes or fails. When you go into the weighted vote or proportional vote, every vote is reduced or it is calibrated to the proportion of the jurisdiction's population in the region. So we have about 5 million people in the region, 24 different jurisdictions on the TPB. So their population is weighted. We have a spreadsheet, we have a formula that does all of that. To facilitate that, when we take a vote, if we take a roll call vote, then we call out the names of each jurisdiction and the member present would officially declare what their vote is, yea, nay, abstain, and then we calculate the weighted vote. And the last thing, in a weighted vote process, abstentions are not treated like a no vote. In fact, abstention is distributed to those who are present and voting whichever way. So if one person abstains, their vote is distributed proportionally amongst the other jurisdictions within that state to whoever is present and voting whichever way. Some 50% might be voting yes, 50% might be voting no, so that one vote that is abstaining gets distributed between the yeses and the nos. So it's not treated as a no. With that, Chair, and I want to acknowledge we have TPB Legal Counsel Sharon Pandak by my side. In case we need to, she will speak up. Thank you. Thank you, Sharon, for being here.
All right, thank you, Conti. So now for discussions, as I said during my remarks, I would very much like for us to act today. Remember, this is a plan. When we adopt it, it's not etched in stone. It is a living document, meaning we can amend it. Now, so in terms of questions, since I'm not in the room, as we've been doing thus far during this meeting, I'll ask Vice Chair Walkinshaw to help me by recognizing those in the room who would like to speak. After that, I'll call on members online. Okay. Oh, and just a reminder, you have 2 minutes to speak. We will have a timer. All right.
And Chair Henderson, is it your intention to start with Maryland? Or just open it up?
It's just open it up.
Okay. Mr. Morrison?
Thank you, Chair and Mr. Vice Chair. Just want to do procedurally, there was a proposed resolution that we shared this morning that Mayor Ashton referred to, and that resolution would amend the base resolution to adjust the horizon year for what we've been calling segment D, the segment from North to Westlake Terrace to I-370 to 2045, and reinforce the state's commitment to engage with the jurisdictions along the corridor and to continue to evaluate the sections of the corridor through the process and engage with our partners while we do that. It does not make any substantive changes to the plan beyond that change to the year. So appreciate support and for that resolution.
Mr. Morrison, are you making a proposal to amend the resolution?
I'm making a proposal to amend the resolution.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Is there a second?
Chair, do you accept that as a friendly amendment to the resolution? If you do, we may not need a second.
Okay.
And while we think about that, what Maryland has proposed is adding additional commitments to the basic resolution that spells out how their intent to work with the city of Rockville, Montgomery County, and Gaithersburg on how that segment D will be processed further moving forward. These are probably reflections of the discussions, but they are now entering it into the record, into the resolution. And also they are changing the completion date for segment D from 2040 to 2045.
Thank you, Gandhi.
And the proposed language is now being displayed on the screen. You members who are present here have a copy of this, and those who are, we will send that to you once it is done.
And so, Madam Chair, our hope would that this could be a friendly amendment on the basis that it does not change, the plan beyond this date and this commitment to engage.
I'm okay to accept it as friendly if there's no objections.
Delegate Reed?
I'm okay as well.
Okay. So we now have on the floor the resolution R12 2024 amended to add additional language. So that is now the basic motion on the table. We can continue with the questions.
Okay. Mr. Walkinshaw in the room.
I think we have Mr. Olson in the room.
Thank you. So now we're on to any other amendments, correct? Okay. I make a motion to remove the I-95, I-495 South Side Express Lanes toll project from R12 2024.
Okay. Is there a second for that motion?
Second, Olubenle.
All right. We'll open it up for discussion. For the TPB staff, can we take down the slide so we can see if folks have their hands raised?
Okay.
Thank you.
Chair, Mr. Olson?
Yeah, thank you very much. And I know we've had quite a bit of discussion about this in the prior weeks, but we have to get this right. This is actually not the time to move this project forward because it's still in the study phase. This is actually similar to the Southern Maryland Rapid Transit, which we would have liked to have seen that in the plan, but it's still in the study phase. The appropriate time is in the future. Once the study is done, we need to continue studying this. And then in the next or in a future CLRP, that can be put forward before the body here. I will, add that Prince George's had significant concerns about this project, about moving the bottleneck. And I know Senator spoke about the bottleneck in Virginia. We don't want that bottleneck to move into Prince George's County. We have serious concerns. We know that the public comments were overwhelmingly for no build or standalone or transit TDM measures, and all the toll lanes options were much less favorable. We still have remaining concerns also about the taking the lanes on the bridge. So for that reason and many others, I would ask that we remove this project. It can still stay as a study, just like the SMRT. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. Are there any other comments on this?
Yeah, we have another one in the room.
Sure, and I'll just say my name since my name tag is not here. Oluseyi Olubenle, Deputy Director in the Department of Public Works and Transportation for Prince George's County. I do want to, with regards to this outside project, thank Council Member Olson for his motion. And I would like to second that clearly on behalf of Prince George's County, express our appreciation for VDOT. I know there have been a number of conversations that we've had leading up to this point. So thank you for providing the additional information and answering our questions. We do acknowledge and recognize those changes, but want to be clear here today and just echo what Councilmember Olson is saying, that our most significant concern is the level of detail known or lack thereof at this stage. It is paramount to get this capacity project correct, right? We do understand the bottleneck as well in Prince George's County. And we feel it's imperative to not get ahead of the necessary details, such as the inclusion of the specific transit mode or the detailed traffic impacts that are yet to be clarified. I do want to direct everyone's attention to the November 2023 Southside Express Lane Study Report that was very clear from the public information meetings that had occurred. There were about 330 comments that were collected. 41%, which was the highest category, was the no build alternative. And second was about 36% for standalone transit or a combination of transit and TDM. All of the express toll lane options were less favorable received, and hearing from our own constituents in Prince George's County, it is clear that there is not support for the toll project being proposed here today. I know we're short on time, but I just want to echo and be clear that at this juncture, we are not able to support keeping this project in the package to be submitted for air quality conformity process at this time. And of course, would welcome the discussion with VDOT if we do have to. I see we have 15 minutes left in this meeting, so I'll end there. Thank you.
Chair Henderson, James Walkinshaw.
Go ahead.
Thank you, and appreciate hearing from Mr. Olson. And board members have the letter from Chairman McKay outlining our thoughts on the project at this point. I'll just emphasize a couple of points that are in the letter. First, this is the only remaining swath of Northern Virginia that does not have express lanes, as Mr. Cutler outlined. And what that means is this is a swath of Northern Virginia and of the region that does not have access to reliable and efficient bus service. It also happens to be the swath of Northern Virginia that has a disproportionate amount of COGS equity emphasis areas. It's a swath of Northern Virginia that has historically been underserved, that hasn't had access to these kinds of transit options. And right now, this project is the only opportunity to advance those options for them. I will note, I asked Mr. Cutler this question. I looked it up since then. The DRPT study that MDOT and Prince George's County participated in identified that 8,000 bus riders could have access to bus service crossing the Woodrow Wilson Bridge each and every day if this project were to move forward. 8,000 bus riders. That's folks that today are in their single occupancy vehicles, or they're not heading to Prince George's County to spend their money. 8,000 bus riders per day. That's just crossing the bridge. That doesn't include the thousands of additional bus riders that could have efficient and reliable service within the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I think an important point on this project is that even if it were to move forward through this body and was included in Visualize 2050, if at any point Maryland was not supportive, it will not be built in Maryland. VDOT could not and would not, or a concessionaire could not or would not build lanes in Maryland over Maryland's objections. So I think it would be a mistake for this body to say, today, at this point, we're not willing to give those 8,000 potential bus riders a chance. That doesn't mean when the work and the analysis and the studies are completed that there may not still be hurdles and obstacles in the project that might cause some of us to not be supportive. But if we take it out of the project, of the plan today, we're saying to those folks who right now don't have a transit option that we're taking it off the table. And I think that would be a mistake. And I want to just suggest maybe a friendly amendment. Both of you have noted the ongoing conversations and the short time here. I would support the amendment to remove the project from the resolution today with a friendly amendment to add consideration of it as an item on our June 9th, I think it's June 9th, in our June meeting, so that the conversations can continue and maybe we'll have more time to discuss this issue. So I'll pose that as a friendly amendment.
Okay, so on the floor, we have an amendment to the amendment. Mr. Olson, you were the original maker of the motion. Do you accept Mr. Walkinshaw's amendment as friendly?
Just to clarify that would be to move this item to the next meeting.
No, sorry, it would be to remove this project
Yes.
from the list and have this project separately considered at our June.
That would be fine. Thank you.
I just have one point. We're fine with that, with moving it to next month, but I want to be clear that in a month, the NEPA study won't be complete, right? So much of our position is clear at this point, but we are happy to continue those conversations.
Okay, so that motion was, or that amendment to the original amendment was agreed to as a friendly. And so what we are now discussing is a new, or the revised amendment, which is to remove the South Side project from the list, but that project be added to the June agenda for consideration. Okay, so that's what we're currently voting on. Are there any comments about this revised amendment?
I think Ms. Andak would like to say something.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think the question may be whether you and Delegate Reed accept that as a friendly amendment to your motion, or whether this remains an amendment to the motion.
Well, I believe that Mr. Walkinshaw's amendment was to Mr. Olson's amendment, not to mine. So that's why he was able to accept it as friendly.
That's correct, but I think then the next step is whether you and Delegate Reed accept that as a friendly amendment. If not, then we can proceed with Ms. Wilson's amendment.
Delegate Reed, I'm okay with accepting that as friendly.
Yes, as am I.
Now that's all part of the main motion that's on the floor.
Okay, thank you so much. Always good to have General Counsel there to help us out. Okay. Are there any other, I'm sorry, General Counsel, just to clarify, do we need to vote separately on this particular amendment?
You
Are
do
we-
not now. No, you can continue discussion and
Okay.
then when that's done, come to a vote.
Great. Does anyone else have any comments that they had? We haven't even turned to the folks online yet, so I don't know if anyone online has questions, comments that they want to raise about the overall package, but now would be the time to raise your hand to be recognized. Mayor Rochelle?
I'm sorry, I was on mute. I thought I didn't realize. Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to speak in support of the project list as it was submitted. All the projects are important to all travelers of the region and also for the economic viability of the region. These multimodal transportation investments are done in a balanced way. Everything is connected. All projects are connected. Just like in life, there is interconnectivity. The work done by staff was thorough. There was collaboration, there was feedback, and the process has proved itself to be comprehensive. So for all those who may not support all of the projects, I mean, it's helpful to remember that different areas have different needs, and we should not be taking a narrow ideological approach to funding of projects. We need to have confidence in staff members who are the professionals who view their work through a lens of multimodal transportation investment. So I hope that members of this body will consider that and that we not damage the integrity of the process itself. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Does anyone else have any comments or questions?
Hi, this is Kanik from the city of Alexandria. I'm in support of what's in front of us currently.
Okay, thank you, Kanik. Anyone else?
I don't see anybody in the room.
I think we can move to a regular vote.
We have one in the room here.
Just kidding.
We have a lot of people in the room. Ms. Ashton.
Yes, the letter from MDOT noted that they did not believe that a motion to remove segment D could happen. I would like to hear from TPB whether a motion to change from construct to study is a legal viable motion.
I will start with the important caveat that certainly I am not a NEPA expert, and I've talked with my staff. None of them are. We don't work on individual project development. I know Will has worked on a number of NEPA documents, so I will certainly defer to their assessment. What I do know in my past life, having worked at VDOT, every major project that receives federal record of decision has a few elements. Logical termini is one of them. Independent utility is another one. So when the federal agency issues a record of decision essentially approving a project, it is recognizing that there are different parts to that project, and each of those parts have a independent utility. They are contributing to the overall effectiveness of the project. So it is really incumbent on what is in the language of the record of decision. So if the record of decision issued for this project says that this entire project has the overall utility, which is what we are basing our approval on, then I will have to accept their recommendation. So just as an example that this morning somebody shared with me is if there is a roadway project or a transit project and you need to construct a stormwater pond as part of that project, and the project is approved, perhaps there is some issues with where the stormwater pond is located. Another entity outside of that federal approval cannot remove the stormwater pond because without that, the project would probably not have received federal approval. That's the idea. So that is why we will have to rely on what is the record of decision telling MDOT about all of the different pieces and their independent utility. I know it's not a direct answer, but that's everything I know, and that's all I know about NEPA. Thanks.
Ms. Ashton?
Yeah, I was just going to say, go on record again, thank you, MDOT, for working with us as best as you could. I still do need to protect the residents of Rockville, and you know that, and we've talked about that. Whereas most people will be gaining something in this project, Rockville will be losing a free lane. And we're concerned about equity, congestion, and all the things we've talked about. So again, appreciation for how far you've taken us, but we all know what I need to do to protect Rockville. So thank you.
Okay, did we have other folks in the room? Yes, go ahead.
Haley Peckett, Montgomery County DOT. I just want to thank MDOT. You've worked really collaboratively with us on the transit commitments that are underlying in the resolution. And we look forward to working with you on the details of those commitments to make sure this remains a multimodal project, the American Legion Bridge 270. I also want to speak on behalf of County Executive Mark Elrich that we do agree on the importance of the bridge in terms of overall regional mobility, but we want to echo Rockville's concerns specifically about segment D, the construction and capacity impacts of that segment on the residents of Rockville and Montgomery County are going to be on a part of the project that is just not the highest priority in terms of congestion. So we look forward to working with MDOT and other partners around the region to see if we can refine the project design and implementation strategies to minimize the footprint and really be a multimodal project.
Thank you. Mr. Walkinshaw, is there anyone else?
I don't see anyone else in the room. Mr. Snyder.
Sure, thanks. Thanks very much. A huge amount of work has been done by everyone, and the real effort to find consensus here is really remarkable. I've sat through too many of these where there was no effort to find consensus, so hats off to everybody involved. And I have concerns about the transit elements of the two controversial plans, but I'm going to have to count on Montgomery County enforcing the transit issues on 270, and I rather suspect they can do that. And I'm going to count on VDOT and MDOT hopefully to resolve this. VDOT, MDOT, and Prince George's County to resolve things next month, so we don't have to vote on that negatively. So I'm hopeful there. The only thing I wish is that this is a great set of projects today. This is kind of more of a 2024 plan. What I don't see is the thematic development to really make this a vision plan for 2050. What is it that we really want this region to be in 2050, rather than responding to today's very legitimate needs and desires? So the only regret that I have is that the title suggests more vision than we're really able to deliver right now. But I think I'll count on our collective work to deal with that in the future. So for those reasons, I'll be voting in favor of this and recognize that there's a lot more work ahead of us in the environmental and other areas. And finally, at the last meeting, I was asked, I'm going to have to vote on this whole plan. So how does it stack up against this region's commitments on the environment, this region's commitments on equity, this region's commitments on safety? And I'm hopeful that this plan addresses all of those, but in the future, I'd like to see more specific outlining of exactly how a plan like this with all of its component parts actually does that. So with that, I think I'll be voting in favor of the plan, and thanks for a couple minutes. I've been on this body since 1994, and I'm impressed at how hard people have worked to move things forward on behalf of the public throughout our entire region. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, one more in the room?
Can you just clarify your amendment, and can we just hear one more time before we do the actual vote? Thank you.
Okay, so we have resolution R12 2024 as amended to include the language from Maryland Department of Transportation. So that's our base. And then on top of it, it was amended to remove the I-495 South Side Express Lanes project from the list of projects that will be approved today, and with the commitment that that will be an action item for the TPB at its June 20th meeting next month. And for those who have the entire list of projects, and that table, it is on line 373, line 373. That's the project that we are going to strike out in approval today, but that project will be brought back as an action item June 20th. So that's the motion, and back to you, Chair Henderson.
You're muted.
You're muted, Chair Henderson.
Apologies. Okay, thank you, Conti. Seeing no further comments, we're going to move to a vote. Once again, we're going to go by jurisdiction, and we're only asking for the nays and abstentions. So if you're good, remaining quiet works. If you're not, then speak up. Okay, so from Virginia. Okay.
I don't see any in the room.
Okay. From Maryland.
Nay.
That was City of Rockville.
City of Rockville.
Okay. And from the District of Columbia. Okay. The other agencies? All right. I believe this resolution passes. Just as a note for everyone, as by amended, we will be speaking about this again in June to take up the project as it pertains to the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. Okay, we're a little bit over time, but we're going to go really, really quickly, so please hold on. Item 9, as I mentioned before, is just a notice. Catherine.
Hi, everyone. I will just let you guys know that in your packet, you have a memo and the draft Transportation Resilience Improvement Plan that I will be bringing to the board for approval next month. I had a presentation, but I will have even longer next month to kind of review it with everyone. If you have a chance to look over it over the next 30 or so days, please email me any comments or edits or suggestions that you may have. And I am looking forward to hearing everyone's feedback, and hopefully, yeah, if this project is approved, if your locality submits a project for a discretionary grant under the PROTECT program, which is a federal highway grant program that promotes resilient operations for transformative, cost-saving, and efficient transportation, the project can receive a match reduction. So if the project is approved for funding via PROTECT program, the local match, which is normally 20%, can be reduced to as low as 10%. So that's one of the big financial benefits of having this approved program, of this approved plan for all of the folks in this region who want to get resilience project funded and built. Any questions? We don't have time for questions.
Don't really have time for questions, Catherine, but we will look forward to a full discussion, more fulsome discussion of your presentation at the June meeting. Just to note for folks, the next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, June 20th. Please note that we'll be meeting on a Thursday as opposed to a Wednesday. Thank you all so much for your engagement on this discussion. I thought it went very smooth. I hope all of you also agree with that. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.